Welcome to Engaging Youth, Families, Communities, and Tribes in Planning, an excerpt from the Prevention Planning Roundtable discussion with child welfare leaders. I'm Sarah Vidrine from the Capacity Building Center for States. In this excerpt, participants share progress and lessons learned as they've worked to center and prioritize people with lived experience in prevention planning and beyond.
One of the things that we have seen that has really been a success is the level of collaboration that we have with all of our partners, with youth and parents with lived experience. So outside of just the child welfare agency, we really have seized this opportunity to build a collaborative approach to move us further upstream.
So we started with identifying sort of those touch points. You know, where are our families? What are the touch points? Who can we reach out in order to include those in sort of our work? And then our initial meetings were, okay, we have everyone here. This is who's here. Who is missing? Who else do we need to reach out to? Who else do we need to include in this conversation?
What I would say is we had a couple of starts and stops in the engagement space. And so I think it sort of goes to the question of how do we do it, but also, you know, we learned some things along the way. We initially organized, you know, kind of a large stakeholder group. And then after sort of early meetings, realized we didn't have quite the structure that we needed to actually make progress. And we also we were missing some people. To Susan's point, we didn't quite have the right mix of stakeholders in the room. And so we kind of reset.
I think having our foundation and our partnership in that with our tribes we have a Oklahoma Indian Child Welfare Association that has built up and been stronger over the last several years, as well as we have a partnership grant that has been going on for the last 5 years. So that really laid the foundation for us to engage tribes, probably more so than we would have been able to prior to that. But I will still say it has been a struggle. There's a lot of trust building that has had to go on. And we're still not there yet, but we are certainly working towards that and trying to find ways in which to engage everyone and have their voice into that. So we have a meeting within that association that we attend in terms of a subgroup. We attend the overall association meetings. And then we have a tribal state work group through our agreements with the tribes and to share information. So we continue to find different avenues in which to just share and bring them along this journey. This isn't a one and done. We didn't write our plan and then put it on the shelf. We really want to have that a fluid piece. And so continuing those conversations with not only tribes, but also those with lived experience, bringing our parents involved in that has been a journey over the last year that we've been trying to move towards to have more inclusion of that for sure.
Our engagement is something that I'm pretty proud of. You know, those regional forums, we had prevention service recipients from each region speak, and a lot of those recipients, you know, went through the program and are now employed by the program and you know, serving new families coming in. And the foster youth that spoke, you know, talked about his experiences of, you know, how his life trajectory could have changed if Family First had been available to him, you know, during his time with child welfare involvement. So it was just very powerful and impactful. So for folks that are, you know, planning, you know, their implementation now, it's very, you know, helpful in rallying our communities and our stakeholders.
One of the things we want to be better at, frankly, just to offer a perspective of maybe something we haven't done so well that we would like to do better at, is that sort of co-design process. We included stakeholders early on, but it didn't get to the level of co-design where we really started with them from the beginning and said, what do you think needs to happen in this candidacy group, and what would be, so from families who have been impacted by the system and from youth and from other folks with lived experience, we need to be better at that. And I think it's one of the things that we're looking at as we go forward. How to structure that, how to compensate participants for their time, things like that, as we bring them into this process. So just something for jurisdictions to think about.
We did definitely include the youth and family voice, parent voice in our planning efforts and in those stakeholder engagement meetings. those were primarily those that were through our parent partner program or through a parent board for that specific, like Safe Care, for example, they have their own parent board that they've created for that program. And so we took folks that we already had access to, not that they didn't have lived experience, but we definitely want to look at how to increase and enhance those efforts and bring more into that discussion beyond what we had access to in going through the planning phase in this virtual world and being able to really engage outside of what we already knew, and particularly also with our tribes doing the same thing, trying to engage them more through those ways too.
I think we need to do a better job of bringing in that sort of lived experience. And I don't know that we've gotten there yet. And it is part of our plan kind of moving forward as we phase through implementation of Family First and actually in all of our efforts. So for example, in our family practice model world, we intentionally set that up from the beginning as a co-design process. So that's moving forward with, from the beginning, bringing in people with lived experience. We didn't do that for Family First. I'll just put that out there. And we, in retrospect, wish we had.
Kentucky is also involved in the Thriving Families, Safer Children effort, and we have those with lived experience who are part of that project, and really working to co-design our efforts of what we are doing under Thriving Families. And, in several presentations that we were going to present, I've gotten feedback from a birth parent that, this part of the presentation really comes across as paternalistic, as if the agency knows best what's best for families. And I've had to say, you're right. Families know what's best for families. Communities know what's best for communities. And so I think it has really just having that feedback in real time before we, do a formal presentation or share information really allows us to sort of check ourselves about how we're coming across, so that we're coming across in a way that those that we serve perceive it as helpful, rather than, taking a very paternalistic approach. And I think that has helped with that authentic engagement and has been really impactful.
Now that you've had an opportunity to listen to these stories, consider bringing your team together to intentionally plan for authentic partnership with youth, families, communities, and tribes throughout the development and implementation of your prevention plan.
The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of the Children's Bureau.